But hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio. Here back again, back on a regular schedule until like December. I thought about was like, am I gonna go skate up to Toronto in November for Toronto Games Expo, and then a lot of the other expos I'm doing in 2026 were like, you haven't paid us. We like the deposit you gave us, but you haven't paid us the other money you owe us. And I was like, uh-oh. I guess I haven't yet. So I will probably not be doing any of those. But I'm just going to be hanging out stateside until the hometown show in Boston in December. So that means plenty of this show to do. And what this show is, of course, is Indiepocalypse Radio. Your kind of what I would do at all those events. I just hang out and talk to people. That often this show gives me the benefit of doing that for people who are not happen to be at those shows, or especially people who collections of people do not have to be at those shows together. You put them all in a room and saves us the whatever $8 million it takes to go to GDC or whatever other gaming events that all game people go to. But today we have one guest with a shadow second guest that may appear at any point. Who knows? Well, we've got one guest who you may know in the context of this. Oh, my name's Andrew. I forgot. I don't remember if I said that. Well, you may know in the context of this thing for their game from issue 64 of Indiepocalypse, Daydream Heartbeat Cure. It's Nicole Shin. Nicole, how are you doing today?
What's up, Andrew? I'm good. I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
A bit super busy, a little bit sleepy, but good, you know.
Yeah, no, similar. I woke up too early today, which is more than I woke up at kind of like my regular time of like 6 a.m. or something. I was like, I usually like to sleep in, but whatever.
Well, 6 a.m., that's hardcore.
Well, you gotta, this Indiepocalypse don't pay for itself. You gotta go to a real job to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, how is it being the Indiepocalypse Lord? Like, how is it being like a solo person doing so much all the time?
It's both easy and hard at the same. Easy because I work very quickly and very immediate, and it's easier to do when I work alone.
Yeah.
Because I can, and I can only imagine that I could also be insufferable if I worked with another person all the time. Because I'm like, oh no, I got to get things done. I have a million little schedules that I made for myself that I need to finish on time.
But beholding someone else to that could be a lot, or
right. That's what I worry about sometimes. Like, I never know if I could potentially be overbearing to work with. But I also realized, and this is something I realized very recently, having a second person is like handy, having just like another person, because something I've always had difficulties having confidence in the work and saying, oh, this thing rules, partially because it's just me, or organizing, so it feels very arrogant, to be like my thing is good.
Yeah.
But like there's this weird mental block of like, oh, if there was another person, I would feel no problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have like more people, even if you just have like a buddy who helps out, you can like high five and be like,
right.
Yeah, we're doing.
Yeah, it's like it suddenly becomes we are doing all this, and technically, Indiepocalypse does not exist without the people who make the games. It's kind of, other than that, it's just a nice schedule with nothing inside of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think also because the internet's weird, people on the internet are weird, and I'm like, I just don't want to deal with people on the internet.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, I think what you're doing rocks, and yeah.
Thank you. This is secret
affirmations every day.
the secret goal of the show is just invite people on to say nice things about me, and then it tricks people into reinforcing it. Look! I have all these recordings of this, but we're not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about you primarily, also me, but that's only in the nature of polite conversation where two people talk about each other. So I have a question. As a commissioned dev, I cannot ask you the standard Indiepocalypse question, so I have to ask you a derivation of it, of course, which is, hey, do you know what this thing was before I emailed you?
I actually did. I feel like, well, I had friends who have contributed, and then
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was really cool. When you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I would love to make something for this. This is awesome. Yeah, I just think, I mean, we were chatting a little bit earlier, but there aren't that many outlets for like the type of work that a lot of a lot of the work that you showcase. I feel like there's not that many outlets that exist to actually showcase these things in a
Right.
way that feels like organized and curated and celebrated. So I was just like, yeah, duh, of course I'll say yes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I really like your project. So
Thank you. I very like. I go back to, I think a lot back to when someone was, I'm blanking on what it was to talk for. Someone asked me in a very interview, like, who's the audience for this? Who do you imagine your ideal audience is for Indie Apocalypse? I'm like, it's me. Like, it's the guy who
yeah.
goes to like an indie comic show and like fills a bag from everything, like of everything from the table, you know?
Yeah.
It's the person
Yeah,
who's,
the collector, the person who's like into the extra niche stuff.
yeah. The person who obsessively listens to everything on Bandcamp or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is like, no, who in high school decided they want to be extremely unrelatable. And I was like, it was a weird conscious decision. I was like, what if I just became unrelatable and I just started like getting into stuff that people weren't talking about, which is both fun and also isolating. So I get why people don't do it, because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, we all know about Peak, you know, uh, and
Well, I guess what I would say to that is like it's still relatable because there's always people who are like you who think similarly.
yes,
And um I mean you're kind of like building a network of these people through your project. So
right,
kind of like
and
you're not unrelatable. It's pretty relatable, I would say.
yeah, and I think also I like to think that the unrelatable people are actually all relate in their unrelatability, or
Yeah.
in relate in that they are people who want to tell someone about a thing they think other people don't know about,
Yeah.
and likewise want to hear about those things.
Do you like see I feel like it's funny that you kind of phrase yourself as like a comic book guy who goes like I feel like there's like bad like potentially negative associations with comic book guy. Do you like embrace that, or are you like that I'm a different type of comic book guy?
I'm a different type of comic book guy. I have an irresponsible number of them, but also I it's in the same way a lot of stuff where I'm like craving like indie publications. I keep accumulating small presses, like small press imprints that I am buying their monthly or like their quarterly print run on Kickstarter or whatever. I'm like, oh, here's a new one. I'll keep finding my way to like, I'm like, oh, what is Lucky Pocket? Hadn't heard of Lucky Pocket, and then I'll find another one and I'll get into that.
Yeah. I feel, I mean, I'm a hoarder of also buying. I mean, my thing is like zines and art books. I just
Yes.
have I have in my apartment, I have like two entire bookshelves full of them, and then I have like in storage just like boxes and boxes of them that I've collected over the years. And yeah, so I totally relate to the I don't know, there's something just like really inspiring about just like seeing so much stuff, and it's all like from people who are just like having fun
Yeah.
rather than being like I'm gonna make something so serious and so like intentional that um it feels really like overly precious or something. But then that's what makes it precious or something, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Or something that feels like very like catered for an audience.
hmm
Like that, like 'cause it doesn't feel like it feels like you don't get that uh, in that kind of like small zine scale of Oh, this is just people making stuff that they want to make.
Yeah.
There's, I feel like you get less of that worry about less of that feeling of, oh, I didn't even realize this. I was just scrolling through pictures and I came across a random picture that also Lucky Pocket had commented on of your,
Yeah.
if you guys at the IGF thing. I always forget how interconnected everybody is.
No, it's true. It's like I don't know. I think there's like so much more in common between all of the kind of like DIY experimental creative practice like zones. Like there's so
Yeah.
much more in common between those things than you would think, and a lot of overlaps of like even the type of work that people make and like things that people are interested in talking about or making. It's like there's just so much there. Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
like a huge proponent of like not staying in your lane in terms of like, oh, I only think about games. Like I
Yes.
make games, I only think about games. Or it's like I make paintings, I only think about paintings. I make comics, I only think about comics. Like it's really, I think it's just like way funner of a life to just like be like it's all kind of the same and
Yeah.
but they're just expressed differently.
I,
Um,
I think a lot about the idea, the average, your average quote unquote itch developer, probably has way more in common with like a zinester than like a indie game developer.
yeah. No, 100,000%. Like, agree with that.
Like there's the like what is like the idea of the commercial product, like something new just started, a new online video game essay effort, and because it took me like 5 minutes to type it in. I typed in their contact form because they're like, oh, we're really looking for the deep underground indie games,
Yeah.
and I'm like, bro, let me tell you about this thing I've
Yeah.
been doing, and I don't expect them to ever respond to it, and that's like the feeling of like, oh right, like games especially have like a weird sense of like what like underground and alternative means, like
Yeah. Yeah, I guess how would you describe what underground means
like
for games?
it feels like a thing that you cannot like. I like I feel like the closest quote unquote official thing that kind of like taps into it is either like a maze or like the IGF, but only for Nuovo and student games.
Yeah.
uh,
Dang. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I mean that's really sad, I think.
right.
That that's those are the two kind of like touchstone points. I mean, I think like yeah, Itch is a very cool place, but it's like so flooded with so much different type of
Right.
works that exist, and it feels like yeah, just I don't know, yeah. Underground is such like interesting way to try to frame games in general. Like, is there an underground like actually ecosystem that like
Right.
feels
Like
strong and yeah
I,
and reliable? Yeah,
I think unfortunately it's not an ecosystem. I mean it's
yeah,
growing.
yeah,
Like I think it's becoming more identifiable as you get more like more like little collectives and stuff like
yeah,
Litho Breakers and Domino Club and Paradise and all those folks. And you get more spaces like Boshi's Place. I think you start to see like a more coalesced like alternative underground space. But video games feel so very dominated by commercial success, I guess, in terms of
yeah.
what people are talking about.
Mhm.
Like, how do I say? There's no way. I wish people thought. I wish people wanted to have cool taste in video games, but they don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess like I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit optimistic about it, but
Yes.
I do like I feel like people do
Yeah.
want that. I think it's just like I think there's no access point for it for a
Yes.
lot of people, especially because it's a medium that's like been kind of pushed heavily to be like an online thing only. Like there's not really like I think I mean, we were talking about music and stuff for a little bit before,
Yeah.
but I think like a big thing about music, right, is like you can go to concerts and you can like buy random mixtapes at shows or
Yeah.
like yeah, get merch and then you're walking around with that t-shirt and then someone's like, "Oh, what's on your t-shirt?" And then they look up a band or whatever and it's like I don't know, there's not really like that type of like
Yeah.
burn community, like weird ambient community building that like exists for games because it's just like yeah, there's just like these kind of like downloading only spaces to access video games and um yeah, it just feels way different to trying to kind of have that like word of mouth kind of cool energy that
Yeah.
exists.
Because I remember talking to someone on the show and they were talking about how even like I think they were like in Utah or whatever at college and like even there they have like no dearth of basement punk shows, you know. But
Yeah.
what are video game punk basement punk shows, you know? They
Yeah.
don't exist really in the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
Uh
But yeah, how do we make that happen, I guess is
right.
like but um
I think like
but yeah,
part of it has to be like I feel like we just need to kill preview culture, you know? Like I want to see more games that are done. Uh,
how do you wait? What do you define by preview culture? Like just like the really like long kind of like preview of like this is what I've been working on this week
yeah,
of my game, and it's like you get tidbits of. I mean, I get that. I understand that. I think like I guess my counter question to that is like what do if you're working on something for like 10 years, how do you
right.
like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think it's more the people seem primarily interested in things that while they're previewing, like it's the kind of like hype cycle of it, because that also reinforces people making 10-year long games instead of like, oh, I made a game in a week, uh, because games sometimes, especially like you see with like. Because most games are like festival style things where it's like they're looking for new or unreleased works. There's fewer like fairs in like markets and like fests. There's like maybe bring a newer thing, but you also have like a bunch of stuff that you've already made and you're bringing around.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I think just like some kind of like embrace of the kind of zine mindset but for games
Right.
and be cool. Like yeah, I mean I what I really appreciate about your project is it just like focuses on games that are really easy to like engage with in the sense where it's like okay, I don't have to sit down and like play each of these games for 10 hours
Right.
like to complete it. It's like they're just short, like digestible, and then you can like play some of them and then play the rest like another time. And I think like there's just a lot of pressure. I guess like going back to the consumerism thing, I feel like there's just a lot of pressure on game makers right now to just be like, there's only one path of making money on my game, and so
Yes.
I have to do it this way. Um,
I,
and yeah.
I've
And
got to make all my wish lists. And I've got to uh,
yeah,
I've got to make sure I have my TikTok channel going, and then I have to, it's the trying to, I've got to add my roguelike mode so that it's infinitely replayable.
yeah. And I feel like there's things about that that I'm not like opposed to. Like I
Right.
think there should be a world for all of it, but it's just it is sad like I don't know. I also just feel like there's so many like when I feel like when I show my friends who are like only book people, like only zine making people, like the types of projects that you're publishing and other like small like games that you play in like 15 to an hour like minutes,
Yeah.
they're just like I didn't even know that this was a thing that existed like at all.
Right.
And they get really hyped on it because they're like this is cool. And so I think there's definitely like a lot of people who want to see these things, but it's just like yeah, the gaming industry has no incentive to care about it at all. So there's like not really like a established institution to promote these things in a way
Yeah.
that good. Um,
I saw relatively on one of the brief moments I saw online. I forget who said it, but they said there was some kind of argument about games that always goes on. Um,
yeah.
but they said something to they were talking about like art house games, and they said something to the effect of like even if a person could not name a single art house movie, or they still understand conceptually that they exist in the same way that maybe like video games perhaps don't.
Yeah. I wonder like do you think that because I know like okay, we don't have to go super meta into it,
Right.
but I know like I know there's like a lot of statistics where the gaming industry is like starting to surpass film in terms of like sales and
Yeah.
engagement. And I wonder if it's just like a zeitgeist thing right now. Like it still maybe it feels like there's not enough people like on average who like aren't like video game people engaging with video games casually. So there's
Yeah.
not really like these
Right.
communities of art bros or like film bros
Yes.
that like are like an archetype or stereotype yet because it's like I don't know, maybe we need to wait 10 years before the like video game bro
Yeah.
emerges.
We're our video game hipsters,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
like whatever. They can be insufferable, but they do a valuable service.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, yeah, sometimes you want to punch people like that, but it's like they do
Yeah.
get titles of good stuff out there
Yes.
sometimes.
Somebody needs to be saying these words out loud and go.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But it
But
is.
yeah,
Uh,
I,
and it does honestly it feels like a generational thing. I think like as I interact with granted I'm in a slice of obviously attracting like art people in general, but it seems like fucking the kids have got it figured out, like, and it really is kind of a lot of it is like the legacy 2010s 2000s games people still have the most air, uh,
yeah,
that kind of like, and if just basically kind of once they fade away things will change a little as like new voices come. It's presumably the new voices that come in and aren't like uh, streamers or whatever.
yeah,
Like, and not it's the conceptual streamer. You dear listener, you understand what I say when I say streamer.
yeah. I'd
Not
actually never watch streamers. Like 100,000% do not watch streamers, and I don't know that culture at all.
Yeah,
So I
it's
feel
I assume I think of it as just like when I say streamer, I think of the conceptual variety streamer. That's
like,
just like skating from thing to thing and maybe has opinions about something, but it's hard to find because they're doing a job and the job is to play peak. Uh, which people may not even be playing anymore. But
yeah,
I and it's and I pick on it as an example because it's a game I literally know nothing about, but everyone talked about it because it made money. Uh,
yeah,
and I think it feels like there's a lot of video games like that. Like if you want to describe what I think was a video game problem, is I hear too much about video games only in the context of the fact that they are successful, and nobody seems to be actually talking about the games themselves,
yeah,
almost as if they're
totally.
not really interesting.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's like the game Consume Me that came out that
Yes.
yeah, I feel like it's like uh in the zeitgeist right now of like the NYU Game Center community and all the like
Right.
people are talking about it and I feel like people are having like questions about like oh what does it mean to be successful as like a game right now for like that level of game and I think there's just like such high pressure put on games to be successful monetarily and
Right.
also like people need to be writing about it. People need to be like buying a million copies. I feel like that's like the creator Jenny is like, I have to have a million copies sold, but I'm like, but I don't know. But to me, I'm like, I feel like the game is so successful because it's like people really like it, and people like it seems like there have been a lot of sales, and it feels like the game itself is just so beautiful and fun to play, and like it's only positive feedback about it. And so I'm
Right.
like,
It feels like
in
it's
that,
art in the upper crust
yeah,
of indie like art. For indie art games, it's like top of the heap at that point. You know.
yeah, in terms of like, yeah, an indie art game, it's like it's so successful. But then in if you try to compare it to something like a little more like of like a commercial or corporate or like small indie team game,
Yeah.
it's like there's no way a single person making like an art game is gonna get that. I would think so. It's like I feel like it's so successful, but
Right.
uh, yeah, it's just funny discourses that pop up around games and indie games specifically that I just like don't know if I fully like understand
Right.
where
Cause
people are coming from. Sometimes I'm just like, this feels really good. Why are we talking about so much?
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
something I think a lot about in terms of like what does success mean. You know, is like,
Mhm.
oh, does it need to be my job? And you know, talk to and the thing. I think the current crisis that game developers are coming into, you know, with sales is that they're realizing that they're artists, um, and that
Mm,
artists don't make money.
yeah.
like like think about how many like artists in any other medium are like doing their own art full time, you know, and it's probably a tiny percentage of them.
Definitely is. Well, because I come from a like a fine art background,
Right.
or getting into game stuff, like, and yeah, it's just a really cutthroat and really like competitive world to be in, and it's like, which is funny because I think from the outside, um, it's like there's a lot of like fluffy language around like making art where it's just like, oh, it's like you get to do what you love, and it's celebrated, and like, but like in terms of trying to make like money
Right.
and have it
Yeah.
like full career, it's like the people who actually get there are like really like hardcore about like uh yeah, my entire being is a brand, and my entire like practice is a brand now, because
Yes.
that's just
Or
kind of
I
how they
have,
live it.
or you're lucky you
Yeah,
know the right people.
right, exactly. Or like I don't know. Yeah, it just it's like it's just a very exclusive and opaque kind of like world actually that's like
Yes.
very harsh, and yeah, and I mean it makes sense why it's like a trope that like artists are like starving or whatever.
Yeah.
'Cause,
No, all the
like real.
all the people I've
Yeah.
talked to who have been in like fine arts, or they're like, oh, there's like six people in it that make money.
I mean, basically, yeah, yeah, and it's also like I don't know. I mean, that's like a whole thing I could get into for like 5 million hours. Is
Right.
like criticisms of how the fine art world operates and stuff. But I think like the big thing is just like you have to give so much of yourself and your work, and you have to kind of like compromise a lot to actually get to the point where you can be financially sustained in by a gallery or by like patrons or whatever, and then you're kind of like beholden to these people, and they also like the way it works now, like compared to even like 20 or 30 years ago, is like you could just get dropped by a gallery, or like your
Right.
contracts are like really flimsy, so it's like there's no guarantee that in like 20 years like you're going to be making the same money that you're
Yes.
making now. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's like
right.
any other industry. It's like there's no like foundation that's like real.
That's the other, like, not only the okay, so you theoretical video game developer, you solve the I don't, you know, I make money now problem. Well, how long do you plan on living, and how long do you need that money for? You know, it's like, oops, now I have to do this forever.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It feels like it's not built to be sustainable. But to pivot back to something that we should have meant to bring up forever ago, the game we mentioned it. If people are unfamiliar with the reason for the season, as it were, Daydream Heartbeat Cure. How would you describe it?
Good. That's a good question.
Yes.
I
No.
would say
It was a question I would. It was one. I'll let you go first. Yes. Go ahead.
describe it as like a a narrative personal poem.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good way I would frame it. Like I don't feel like it feel like when I made it, I wasn't thinking like this is a game. I
Right.
was just kind of like this is like a very personal project to me, and I just need to yeah, express it more like poetically rather than like yeah, having like a specific game mechanic or a specific story that like has to be told in a way that people will recognize. And I just wanted it to feel like a comic also a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Do you have it separate? I don't think you have it on your own page yet, do you? I was looking for it.
I will put it up soon.
So
It's gonna get put up soon, I
mostly because
promise.
someone's saying, I'll say, chat, watch this space,
Yeah, gosh, this
and also check out other things on that space, as well. Uh,
um but
but
yeah, sorry, you
no,
go.
I was going to because a lot of times when I demo whenever I do events and I have a demo booth, which I've actually just abandoned the idea of a demo booth because people just don't play things; they just want to buy stuff, which is a good problem, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I did PAX East, your game was the most recently commissioned game so I put that up there. When people were describing it, I ran to like the problem of our like a verb forward way of describing video games. Because like, oh, what are you doing in this game? I guess you walk around and talk to people, but that's not like what the game is about. And
Yeah.
like that, it makes you realize there's a whole like just like a whole way of looking at games is like I think the sort of skill based game, the challenge based game, whatever you want to call that kind of game, is only one way of making games, but right now it's seen as like the main way of making games.
Yeah. I mean, I think something I like get annoyed with like is I feel like when I've made games kind of like this, it's like the first thing people can describe it is like I guess it's kind of like a walking sim, but I
Right.
feel like a walking sim is so like
Right.
I don't know, it feels like outdated and also it doesn't feel like it actually describes anything in a efficient way. Like you are walking around, but that's not really even like the core point
Yes.
of the game. And yeah, it's like so yeah, I feel like describing it for me in like other non-game words is like helpful,
Yeah.
but it's just a challenge in general, like trying to find new words and framing of these types of games where it's like, yeah, I think for me that game feels more like you're you're sitting down and you're interacting through a poem
Yes.
and like
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, and it's like I have the little like interstitial like interactive moments, but it's like I feel like it the like what I like am aspiring to do with these types of shorter projects is I want it to feel like seamless between like the narrative kind of elements and then going into the like walking spaces where you're talking to people or whatever and then going into the like little interactive moments so that it just feels like you're like
Right.
flowing through the game rather than it just being like okay, now I'm being prompted by the game and now I'm entering like a game space that's like,
Yes. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it is distinct between. It is like, the not every game, not all games do. The here's the story portion, here's the game portion. They are separate parts of the house, and I'm left the story room into the game room where now I do game stuff.
Yeah.
Um, And you and a lot of other, I think, this is a lot of like developers, a lot of people within the more like art, game, alternative, itch, whatever, however you want to define that space,
Yeah.
are approaching games more holistically, where it's like, oh no, these things are all intermingled together forever. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not like you did a good job at the platforming section, now you get another bit of story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's like, yeah, yeah, or just like the reward system of like games where it's
yeah,
like, I don't know, you should just be able to experience it all. And then, like, if you want to gamify it more, maybe there's like a way you can like force yourself to gamify something like that if you really wanted to.
right.
But I feel like it's more about just like, I don't know, I feel like at least for me, I just care more about like how can how can I make something that feels like a little bit confusing, but also but not hard in the traditional sense, where it's
Yes.
like I'm sitting there like teaching myself a skill really like over and over again, and how does that like kind of confusing mechanic also just like feel part of the world of the story or whatever that you're like experiencing in that
Yeah.
moment. Which,
I
yeah, like you said, it feels intermingled, I think is like a really good word for it.
and
Uh,
I've been thinking more about the idea that more. I can never find a good way to phrase this. I'm spinning around the right way to phrase it, but the idea of more people need like game. It feels like the quote unquote best practice. Your YouTube tutorial best video game practices dot mp4 or whatever are like catering the game to meet the player rather than like the player needs to meet the game on the game's terms. Uh, and
yeah,
because we that's I think it's under that can be a lot of understood in a lot of things where it's like, okay, this movie is not going to explain, this book doesn't come with liner notes explaining all the metaphors.
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
there's no tutorial of like this is the narrative structure I'm using in this book.
yeah. No, it's, I mean, I really like uh what you're saying because also just like when I think about like when I interact or basically like when you go to a gallery space or something to
Yeah,
interact with any kind of art project or whatever that you're like experiencing, there's kind of like a set of expectations to just kind of like you can learn more about like why something was made or what it's trying to say, et cetera, but like your first kind of interaction with something is supposed to you're kind of you kind of get trained in like a way as like a enjoyer of art or whatever to just like go in a little bit blind and just accept whatever you're like engaging with, like, yeah, exactly what you said, like on the terms of the project itself. And I think like that's something you get trained in more as like
yeah,
a art person. But I think like there's a little bit of like an elitism around that kind of where like the gallery space is like itself like a place that helps put you in that mindset, and then like you kind of have to like learn the etiquette of that a little bit. um like, but I think like there's a definitely a world where people should be able to do that with games without
yeah,
having to like trained in the same way of like a fine art space or whatever. But I think like I don't know, I just it seems really cool and exciting to me uh to just like have an open mind when playing these types of games, to just like jump in and like yeah, push yourself to like not necessarily break the game, but just
right,
like how do I run around and like I'm gonna press every button and I want to know like what's like weird happening in this game, or like what are ways that I can like force myself through it that feels um like I'm not necessarily trying to be like the have the best experience
you're right.
in the moment, and like and then maybe you could play it like a second or third time if you want to like really understand what like the intention of the game is. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I think part of this comes from the thing you mentioned earlier, like the lack of like spaces and outlets for that kind of things in games. Uh, most game events, conferences are like giant commercial spaces.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's fewer like we were talking I think in the pre-show about Anime NYC. Um, And I'd seen people there at Anime when I see that I'd seen it like Mice, like my local indie comic show, and they brought none of their indie comics with them. There was all your favorite
Yeah.
anime print that you could buy, but the show that has all their like their personal indie comics, those shows exist in tandem with giant anime shows.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is it? What are the little? What? How many of those little shows are there for games?
Mhm.
I think like they're missing these like, besides like local meetup groups, which are also mostly for, I think just other developers. Sometimes like explicitly for other developers, uh,
Yeah.
or implicitly because those are the kind of people who are interested in that kind of thing. Uh, but
No, it's true.
but
It's
like
like,
the public, where's the public go?
hmm yeah, I think like in general, yeah, it's like for anyone to be able to get to the point that like they know how to engage with something that in like a kind of like artistic way or like in a creative thing rather than like just entertainment. Like I feel like games are just in general like to the general public is like framed as like entertainment over
Yes.
art and in a way that like I feel like even film like escapes this a little bit and I don't know if this is like tied to like the art house thing of film or not, but I do feel like yeah, I think just like games have like uh are a little bit trapped by that like drive for entertainment
Yeah.
over conceptual thinking of something.
Right, right, or
That, like,
yes, the phrasing, but it's like it's another thing we don't have the full language of it of like well, what engaging with games on like a non-surface level, or is like not a thing you do while you listen to a podcast,
right. Yeah.
like
Um,
something that is like meant to be thought about and revisited and talked
mhm.
about and maybe sometimes like not understood. I feel like that's also like that's a wider problem that hits all culture of like, man, I love not understanding art sometimes right away.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a really good way to put it is like a little bit of like a intangible ambiguity of like interacting with something
Right.
that like that's kind of like maybe a core aspect of like experiencing art over like however else you want to describe something or like there's like I feel like you have to have like a little bit of like an intention to embrace that to like
Yeah.
view something as art just like inherently so
You have to,
uh
it's a classic. Sometimes you have to eat your veggies.
yeah but like I don't know I feel like a lot of I mean, this is something I like think about a lot because I'm kind of in between a lot of different spaces in
Right.
terms of like, people that I know and like the types of creative people that I engage with and stuff. And when I feel like when I talk to people about games who aren't game people, I feel like there's like a little bit of like a fear that I catch on like when
Okay.
people like like if I try to talk to people about even if they're like gamers
Yeah.
and then like oh like I have like a list of a bunch of like art kind of games that I could send you and there's a little bit of like apprehension or fear like because I think not that they like don't want to play them but just
Right.
more like what does that mean? Like, like, is it going to be hard to play these things? Like, there's like a confusion about
Right.
like what even is it, and how do you like interact with it? Because I do think like um like similar to like, I don't know, training like a person to view art is like training a player to play a game. Like a lot of the games that exist, it's just like there's literally like the AAA games and the history of that. You're like, it's all around like tutorializing players, and then so you're just like, you're literally teaching people how to like use a tool to like execute things
Yeah.
in the game or whatever. So then like, I don't know, I think there's like this like cognitive like dissonance or something when you like try to get someone to go from like, no, I promise you, you're not gonna have to learn like a crazy tutorial to like
Yeah.
play this weird like visual novel or something. It's like you you don't have to like spend a bunch of time. I mean, it depends on the game, I guess. Like
Yes.
some
Yeah.
games are like really complicated or whatever, but I think like, I don't know. So I think there's also just like a lack of comprehension or understanding that like games aren't as like difficult as like the way AAA games have made them out to be. Like
Right.
especially for, like indie games, it's like, no, you don't have to play an hour of like tutorials to
Yes.
learn every single like system that's been made. Like you could just jump in and like start playing something. Like it doesn't, you
Yeah,
know.
because that
Yeah.
is a similar experience that I've had doing like art markets and like non-game markets,
Yeah.
and being in more non-game spaces is I feel like the impression I've always got from people in games to talk about why people don't like games is like the I feel like the violence of it gets the forefront of the focus. Like, oh, people don't want to play Call of Duty murder games, but I've always found like people's hesitance is time, whether it's Call of Duty or Animal Crossing. It's like, oh, these things take 19 hours or whatever. They're like a lifestyle to play 3 games.
Yeah. No,
And
totally. It's like, I don't know. I think that's like the charm like of indie games, right?
yeah,
Is like they're they're actively trying to make things that don't require you to drop like 30 hours of your life into something. I mean, not all not all indie games, but
yes, yeah,
um
but the average indie apocalypse takes probably, I don't know, unless you got a really long visual novel in there, takes at the far end maybe 5 hours, but that's like
yeah.
most of them probably take a couple hours to play all the way through.
Yeah.
But
So
you
it's
know,
just like, I don't know, it's like how do you socialize people into understanding that it's not going to be like that? You're just like begging people like, please play my 1 hour long thing. I
right.
promise it's going to be crazy.
Without me
Yeah.
having to, and I think the weird thing is, I think it's a lot of it's the friggin' internet,
Yeah.
because like I getting in front of people at all these events, and like I don't hide, like I don't pretend that I'm not selling weird art games, that's like part of my pitch, and
Yeah.
then people are still like very interested. I think just it just feels like the noise of the internet is just like drowns a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
Or like it makes it hard to, I'm sitting there making trailers for games and trying to make a trailer for a Twine game, and I go, huh? how do I TikTokify this game? Which
Yeah.
I I've never seen a piece of social media marketing that didn't make me think less of a game or a piece of art.
That's so funny.
Like it feels
Um,
like you just have to undercut yourself.
it's true. It's Well, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like social media is just such like a sad space to
Yeah.
exist in right now. I mean, especially right now. But even at like the height of like Twitter and Instagram and uh like even like Tumblr, right? It's like
Right.
I feel like there was just a much more charming, I guess, like way that social media, like it still felt charming to a
Yeah.
degree, like the height of it, where it was like, oh, like, you really buy into the like it's really nice to get like updates from people like and there's like a large quantity of like artists and creators that I can like engage with in a more casual way rather than being like I'm gonna sit and study like my 10 favorite people for like an entire year.
Yeah.
Like I was like a monk reading manuscripts or something. It's like I don't know, there is something charming about social media as like a concept, but it's like the way it exists now is so like devoid of humanity or something that
Right,
it just
and you can't like go back.
yeah, and you can't go back exactly.
Like I think we realized its marketing potential, and you just like the clout of social media can't be put back, and so everything is like it's almost impossible to not view it through that lens,
Hmm.
of like what can I get out of this? What can I get out of this post of this person of uh, this thing, and that's like the nice thing about I think. I mean, it's infeasible to do in person stuff all the time, but in person, I feel like there are people who would not I'm sure there are tons of people who would not talk to a person because they have 60 followers, whatever. But that same person doesn't have a follower count over their head at an event.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I don't know. I think that's just like I don't know. I guess yeah, how do we get more people to start getting like IRL spaces back up and running?
Right.
But I think like I don't know, maybe that's just like a bigger, sadder topic
Yes,
about
that's
like
like the dissolution of
America.
public spaces is a larger problem than video games.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I mean, I think like 'cause I've been doing the like independent publishing for art books for like a little over 10 years now and
Right.
um yeah, I just think that actually going in person every time like to any event is like so much more rewarding than like ever posting anything
Yes.
online.
I
It's like you can't actually get any like rewarding feedback from anyone online. Like, I mean, I guess it feels good, nice sometimes to have people be like, "Wow, cool project, thumbs
yeah.
up." But it's like, I mean, and obviously like we want people to be supportive and stuff online, but I think like yeah, just nothing beats IRL like conversations or like I don't know, just yeah, random people who like don't even really like normally engage with like whatever thing you're making to like see something and then be like and I don't know, for me like I feel like the a really fun thing that I like feel rewarded from doing stuff in real life is like noticing what stuff draws someone in who
Yeah.
like normally wouldn't care about it at all and they're just like, "Oh, I like my daughter really loves like frogs or something and then
Right.
and there's like okay now I'm drawn to this table and there's like now I'm looking at like this random esoteric thing I've never like thought about in my life before and then you can like see on their face like their thought process and then they'll ask questions and you can have like these really fun weird conversations with people and like I don't know to me I feel like that stuff is like just 10,000 times more rewarding and
Yeah.
even if it doesn't like equate to like financial statistics or something where it's like, okay, now we've exposed ourselves to
Yes.
X amount of people and blah blah blah. It's like
I've
I think
got. I don't leave an event, going. Oh, I got 50 wish lists today. Perfect. Uh, or like, and it is like a problem where dri- I derive no meaning from the little numbers next to the hearts and the arrows.
yeah.
Like it's hard to be like, oh, there's 50 of them. What does that mean? Is that better than when there were 5 of them?
Yeah,
Like
I guess it's better, but like does it really mean anything? And
right. It's also like artificial and like you know someone spending uh a bunch of time like on their art will always get less engagement than someone posting like one of those shitty plastic lawn chairs, you know, or
Love.
like and be like, damn, because I remember there was a post there was something like I think there was someone saying like posting success is someone will be like, damn, late night conversations and these things, and like that's how you post.
Yeah.
And the post itself did get like 1 billion shares or whatever.
So cool.
They're kind of like broadly relatable stuff. He's like, yeah, I as a person, I do like water.
Yeah. Yeah. I do drink water at
Yeah.
least once a day.
Yes, you as an artist will never come as close to roughly 50,000 different animal a day accounts.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I feel like that also is like, oh my God, there's like so much to say about kind of like the compression of like spaces of
Right.
like how people exist online and like what online means and like I don't know, I feel like there's less incentive to be like have like a curious mind
Yes.
online. It's like it's very like you just get bombarded with like anything and everything at all times and then like the when you bring in like the AI algorithms for like social media platforms it just like then it starts like siloing off into your like personalized content stuff and you can kind of like do funny things to try to rig your algorithm and
Yes.
stuff. I think that's fun, but
on
like
on my
it's
work
also very
computer, I've been trying to make it's like, can I make Bing only give me news articles about fast food?
nice. Yeah, Bing. Yeah, we love Bing.
And I've mostly succeeded. Like that's all. I exclusively click on things like news articles, like what's the new Taco Bell menu item, and I'm like, yes, I'll click on that one. And it's weird how it like works in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's like if you just engage with specific things long enough and it'll you can like pivot it in directions, which is kind of like as like a if you're trying to like make a game out of it, it's like fun.
Right.
But I think like I don't know, I think for the average person though, it's like very, very depressing because
Yes.
it's you
Imagine going to like a record shop and you picked up a prog album one week, like one day, and then next time you go there, all the albums are gone except for only prog and prog adjacent albums. You're like, wait a minute.
like you literally like not only are you not incentivized to be curious, there's like not even really like a way to be curious,
Right.
even if you really want to. Or you if you try to force your way into that, it still feels like you're just like being faced with all these barriers and like walls and stuff.
Right.
So
Like generally the amount of effort to do that, the people who are doing that are already curious naturally, you know.
yeah, exactly.
So like that an algorithm is pushing them away doesn't matter because they were already gonna like crate dive, so to speak, through things. They're already the kind of people who are just digging around on itch and seeing what they can find.
hmm
And
Um,
the
I
answer is a lot of horror stuff if you're looking on the front page.
but yeah, just like I don't know. So I think like as like a artist person who's been I don't know. I mean, I to be fair, I don't feel like I've ever really cared that much or been very good and efficient about social media
Yes,
posting
no,
or like trying to like be really really like good at social media in ways that like other people are. But I think like I don't know. I think it's always rubbed me the wrong way to like brand yourself as an
right,
artist. And I think that's like my big gripe for like any art thing is like, oh, you just like have to treat everything you do as like a product, even yourself. And I think I don't know, it's just like super depressing. And then
yes,
like yeah.
because it's
And
like
then
it depends on everyone doing that. Like, oh, you're an artist, you have to do this. Like that seems
but then
like
mhm.
yeah, no,
Well, what I was gonna say is like I think it just contributes to like that kind of like uh why it feels so much more rewarding to meet people in real life at like events and stuff is because like While it can, you can like force a connection online to be fun or like fulfilling, I think like on average it's just like everyone is like viewing like a weird product version of like who someone actually is, but then
Yes.
when you like, get to meet them in real life, it feels like just 1,000 times more natural, and also you can like find more like understanding between each other, or like what types of things you would actually be interested in, and like noticing different overlaps of things that are like creative or fun, that are just like longer standing, longer lasting, and like more impactful
Yeah.
relationships that just, yeah, build stronger like community bonds. And I don't know, it's just like, it's just sad. I don't know, I get really sad about social media
Yes,
because
I think of social media as a great place to meet people and then never and talk to them somewhere else. Like
yeah,
it is just like, and it's also very weird that everyone can see it, and anyone
yeah.
else can just like butt in at any point.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that like it's just not made for like yes, and as Kohio in the chat mentions, I think about constantly about like if you're in, they're talking about like commodifying yourself as a person of color artist, and that kind of like if you've got an idea, the idea of having a marketable identity, and that kind of has to be the thing that you are, just because you're like, well, I can join these extra bundles, or I can use these
Yeah.
hashtags now, even if it you don't feel like it relates to your art, but it's like, well, I need to do that because it's six more people are going to look at my thing now.
Uh-huh.
If if I'm in these spaces, and then I often wonder sometimes, like at that point, I feel like can feel like, oh, are people engaging with my art, or are they like engaging with the identity, and then like my art
Mhm.
is just another thing. Uh,
Yeah.
I think a lot about. I was watching an essay, not an essay, like a some kind of feature, whatever you would call a feature, a video feature, um, about Chantal Ackerman, um, and it was talking about mentioning how she wanted to be known as a filmmaker. She didn't want to be known as like, oh, the feminist filmmaker or the lesbian filmmaker. She wanted to be known as a filmmaker. Uh, so it didn't like emphasize those parts of herself, and it feels like, oh, that's just another thing that you check on the box of social media.
No, totally. It's like, I don't know, it just feels like yeah, the kind of like categorizing via identity. Like on one hand, it sometimes it's like really useful and
Right.
feels like helpful, because then like you can prioritize like how you support
Yes.
certain
I
like
I do I use that a lot of the time for finding artists and people to commission. Um, it is like,
like a
in the same
reasonable
way, I don't want to pack this thing full of white guys,
yeah. No, totally.
but
But well, it's like it does just create a really like hard and stressful relationship between the artist or like creator and the stuff that they make, where it's like it if the work that they're making is about their identity, then it's like it's an extra like boost to be like, yes, that's
yes,
awesome.
right.
Like my work can be celebrated from both of these angles. But then yeah, but then if your work is like not necessarily about your identity, but like then everyone just only looks at you through the lens of your identity. It just feels like I don't know. It feels counterproductive sometimes,
You're
where
right.
it's just like
It's one of those things that the internet it has a hard time reconciling with, is something that can be good
yeah,
and bad at the same time.
yeah, yeah.
Like
And,
it's good
uh,
that it can provide people with like, it allows people like, okay, you know, June, good example of June. Hey, look, let's support queer creators in June, and then June's over, like, oh, we're done. There's also the fear of, oh, you get siloed off into these little categories
yeah.
where it's like,
There's that meme of from Toy Story of the like bully kid throwing the doll down, and
yes,
it's like Why?
Right.
You
It's
know.
like, oh wow, I got into. It's like, wow, my game got into like a lot of queer game showcases. It doesn't get into any other showcases. Whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get like, oh wait a minute. It's like, you know, then that reflects on the artist. Is like, am I good for, you know, not real good, but I'm like not actually good, but good enough for the special category you put me in, or whatever.
It's just like, I don't know. My like cynical take on it is like, well, I think I don't know. I think mostly it's like a net positive
Yeah.
to have outlets to support people. It's like, I mean, I have these conversations a lot with like artist friends too, where it's just like, oh, like, I'm a person of color and like I got invited to be a part of this show, but it's like, and then they never get like invited to the gallery space again, but it's like
Yes.
all
Right.
like tied to their identity and they're like trying to feel like and then so it's like your identity is also boosting the space as like from an angle of like it still just feels like your identity is being used in like a marketing kind of strategy.
Right. That's the whole. That's another whole wrinkle to it.
Excited. Yeah,
Of
that's maybe the excited take. Um but yeah, I think anyway, I think like um yeah, I think it's just like in a perfect world, it's like both things can exist and be
yes.
separated,
Right.
and then if that's as the artist, if like you don't want people to have your identity be the first thing, then you should, you know, then people should look at your work like through the lens of like whatever else you're trying to reference or like
Yeah.
uplift. Um,
It
and
is.
I don't know, but I
No.
think people are effectively kind of like dumb, so they also like being told what something is going to be about or
Yes.
like why you're engaging with something.
Right.
Um,
Right. So sometimes they like to be like, yeah, like it
yeah,
is. It is a thing that I think about a lot. You know, from my own perspective of like, I do intentionally want to get people from like all walks of life and especially like different countries. You know,
yeah, yeah,
because I feel like in games that is like, you know, very narrow of like games are you know, parts of Europe, Japan, and North America. And when we say North America, we only mean U.S. and Canada. Um, and I was like, but there's people making art like literally all over the world uh, that is like just as good, even if it doesn't get, you know, they don't have the money or the resources, the connections to find themselves. But also, you know, they're also not signing up to be like a bullet point that says like artist from Malaysia, you know. um, so it's, you know, it's the infinite balance of this is a thing you should highlight, but also not only that. Uh, anyway, that's also a gigantic conversation of that will happen forever, you know, about art and how an artist sells themselves and like the just it people, individual people should not have Discord servers. Not every game needs a Discord server or a fandom or a community. And I think this is all, a lot of this is all kind of wrapped up together in that same way.
but I want to be part of 5,000 Discord servers.
Right. You want every single game on itch to have it to say join our Discord server. I'm like, this game is like 20 minutes long. Why do I need to join your Discord server? What is it for?
Yeah. Good question.
Like I am a part of plenty that I do not talk on and have muted.
Yeah.
But I check in
Um,
occasionally.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, what's going on over here? I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to go, huh, what's going on over here? Uh,
I think yeah, I mean, I know we've been pretty like negative towards like trying to make money, I guess, but I do think like there's like stupid statistic things that you like, okay, now I'm gonna if I want to get published, I'm gonna like show how
yes.
many people are interested in my thing. And I do think people should utilize as many things, resources that they can to
Yes.
make
Yeah.
it happen. But
Yeah.
I
No.
think, yeah, I agree with you. Like if it's just your little game, it's like what is there really a community to build around it in like a Discord way or like any other way? Like
Right. Or
chat, that was cool.
or even that, like, maybe that is not the individualist approach is not actually a practical solution for most people. Like,
Yeah.
more like, what if more artists worked together? Um, Wild notion, I know. Couldn't imagine that happening, but I mean, I think about money all the time. I can't not think about money. Just like my pal, what's his face said. Oh no, I'm blanking on his name. Wallace Shawn said, I can't stop thinking about money.
Yeah.
To paraphrase him very poorly, but it is like there's the infinite balance between like art and commerce and everything, and it's the problem I always run into, and why I crank up the art guide dial when I'm talking to people online and in person is because like the more game events I do, the more I realize that like just how much like you buy your way into entry,
Yeah.
like how like and how much is like, oh no, this is just like a job. Like this person has like at some point making a game is just a job, and like I have a job. Plenty of people have jobs. And sometimes like it's fine that it's like not interesting, and it's just video games are a thing you'd make money on doing a job, and it's fine that it's not like an interesting thing in the art world.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just yeah, it gets really complicated
Right.
because it's you want people to be able to survive off of their art, but then we don't really live in like a world that like caters to that
No.
in any way that feels like meaningful. So it's
Right.
just like I don't know. I do feel like you have to be creative about how you can be self-sustaining for projects, and uh, that's probably also why it's like so hard for things to exist that
Yeah.
feel like
I I
substantial. But
I think that's
yeah.
why the most sustainable way is to either have a job or have a partner with a job. That is
Hmm.
how you sustain your artistic career long term.
Exactly.
Uh, I am still my flag in the ground video game thing. I believe that think needs to happen is that all partners who fund video games implicitly by actually working while the other person just makes video games for 6 years uh, gets executive producer credits.
Yeah. I think that's awesome.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like that's overlooked. Like they're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, how did you guys make that game? Oh well, I'm married to someone who works 40 hours a week at a job that can sustain us both.
Yeah. I love the Stardew Valley, like the Stardew Valley like story is so funny to me for that same reason. It's like I feel like I mean, I think he does a good job at crediting his wife,
Right.
but it's just, I don't know, it's just that the way it gets framed is like
Look what this
always just
single developer made.
and I'm just like, well, would that have actually happened
Yeah.
if like his wife wasn't just actually working like really fucking hard
Right.
also. Yeah.
Let me tell you about all the things I could do if I didn't have to work a job
Yes.
and somebody else paid for everything. Oh, I could do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and that is the kind of like. Also, I mean, I will say this as a person who played that game, completed it, enjoyed it. That is the king of games that make a lot of money but don't do anything interesting. Uh,
Yeah, I like that take. That's funny.
like, it's something I think is like it's like I said, I have a lot of hours in that game, but like what it doesn't. There's nothing interesting about it really, because that's like
Yeah.
that a million Harvest Moon games hadn't done before it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Stardew Valley. I
Yes.
think, but yeah, I agree. It's like there's not like a heart-wrenching kind of like like I don't think about Stardew Valley when I'm not playing it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I don't like think about what does it mean to choose to marry this person. I'm just more like, yeah, I'm gonna want to make sure by year 3 I'm gonna have this amount of like whatever.
Right. It's the way games are weird like that, and that like we use the same word to describe a lot of extremely different experiences.
Yes.
Like, walking simulator. Like to bring it all back to walking simulator. If you compare, like Daydream, well, if you put your game next to Gone Home, they don't look like the same thing at all. But are apparently both walking simulators. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I just like, oh my gosh, yeah, the term walking simulator to me is so funny because I'm like, well, also like, I don't know, yeah, when you think of like simulation games, it's like totally different
Right.
than like what a quote unquote walking simulator is. And then it's like, it also is just like, it feels inherently derogatory
Yes.
somehow. Where it's like, it's like, oh, you're just walking around when it's like, walking around is like what you do all the time anyways, and it's
Yeah.
like you engage in the world by like going from point A to point B, and I'm like, in theory, I feel like there's a world you could like pitch basically any video game that you walk in could be a walking simulator. It's just
Yes.
like, I don't know, it just feels stupid and arbitrary and like tied to like weird other like, I don't know, gendered politics or
Oh,
something.
it's the
You know?
infinite of this isn't
Yeah.
my video games. They're taking away my video games. And
Yeah.
it is true that I am trying to take away everyone's video games. Like, if you support Indiepocalypse, if I make enough money, I can do a round the country tour, around the world tour, and go into everyone's house and take away Call of Duty and Fortnite from them. I will uninstall them, and there's nothing they can do to stop them. It's all just games about feelings and stuff.
I really want to make a really skill heavy first person shooter game, but like wrap it in like the most devastating, like crazy art style
Right.
and storyline. But then it's like, I don't know. Yeah, that's a project I've been thinking about for a long time, is like how do I make something that's like catches like the annoying people who are like into Souls games, but
Yes.
then like make them actually feel something for once.
I
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to find where I saved. I saved this very good quote on the bottom of a. I saw on the bottom of a itch page, and I think about it. Where did I gotta remember where I saved it. I
Yeah.
I think I saved it in my. Oh no! Here's this one that I like. I think defines video games for me. I saved a screenshot of on Twitch. 21.3 thousand people were tuning in for the reveal of IHOP's fully loaded French toast inspired by Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Stick around for our exclusive Xbox themed merch and rewards available in the IHOP loyalty program. To me, that's just video games, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like tying real world rewards with like a stupid uh just like instant gratification
Yeah.
type of. I mean, I don't know what the IHOP
I
game
mean,
was like,
oh,
but
it was an IHOP tie-in for Indiana Jones. You see,
oh, I see. Okay, okay.
so maybe
Yeah.
you had like
That makes a lot of sense actually. Um,
but there probably is. Now, see, that's the problem. That is the major problem with video games, and it's something I realized very recently. Of like, so let's say whatever Fantastic Four is the one I think about, the one I go to because it just came out relatively recently, and
yeah.
like right now, like in the year 2025, Fantastic Four movie means there are like Fortnite skins. But
Yeah.
if it came out like 20 years ago, that would be like a GBA game and a PS 3 game and like that's like 3 or 4 games that get made that like are probably like supporting studios and like
Totally.
there's this whole like avenue of game design, like game making, that has like for mercenary style game work that has like disappeared.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like on my like Instagram reels or TikToks or whatever, I feel like sometimes I get shown like stupid old games, and one of the ones that kind of had like a bunch of like million likes or whatever was like there's like a nostalgia bait video of like um does anyone else remember this like Gorillaz video game that came out with their first album? And it's just like 2D and um what's her name? Noodle, like driving around on a highway, basically like the music video from to what is that song? Sunshine.
Is
Uh,
that Clint Eastwood?
not Clint Eastwood, the
I,
other one.
okay,
Um,
I'm vaguely aware the Gorillas are a cartoon guy. That's my extent of
yeah.
me
Anyway,
knowing about the Gorillas.
it's just like you can tell that the game was probably just like one level, and you're like driving around, and you're like picking up like stuff on like
Right.
a
I
highway.
can see the Flash game now in my head.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I don't know. From a like nostalgia bait perspective, there's like a bunch of things I could say, but I think like from a video game perspective, it's just like yeah, I think there's something a little bit charming about it because it's like kind of what you're saying, where it's like there were so many different ways that games could be financed in ways that felt like funny or
Yeah.
like a little more intentional and less like I don't know, everything just exists in this like crazy monopoly ecosystem thing right now that it just feels like uh you're like, oh the I don't know, it's like you get asked to like make a game for like a small company and then you find out it's like owned by Disney or something.
Yes. You
Okay,
know,
cool.
uh,
Yeah,
and
and then
I've been playing before this radio show. Even I was playing Solitaire Robo, uh,
yeah.
the CyberConnect game, and like
Hmm.
they're a fun studio because they are like DBZ games, Naruto games, whatever anime is popular. Then like they'll sneak in one of their little furry universe games every now and then.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
clearly like that's what like all these Naruto games are funding, like their passion project games that they
Yeah.
self-publish and fund and everything.
Yeah.
And then it's
Which is
like
a cool strategy, I would say, like
yeah,
in the world that we live in. I think, yeah, I think just like, I don't know, I respect the idea of like trying to grift off of things that,
yes.
of the infrastructures that exist. And,
the
but yeah,
I
I
just
do wish like it was just a little bit easier for people to make money
yes, you're
on.
right. that there the grifting infrastructure, like I'm lamenting the loss of the infrastructure to grift off of. Like now it's just Epic. Now it's just Epic or whatever. It's not
Yeah.
3 different studios, or it is like yeah, you are some subsidiary working for some other subsidiary. But fortunately, you have pixel art, so you're an indie game.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
like I think games are. It's just a weird. It all is the part of like the way commercial culture dominates video game culture. So whenever I see people like, you have to say video games are dying, or like the kind of like, well, I mean, I'm like, yeah, the jobs are going away, perhaps, but the medium's doing just fine. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I think that okay, that's what I feel like saying something is dying is like one of my big
yes,
things that I get really frustrated with because like so I was like a painter for a bunch of years and I mean I still paint sometimes but that was like always a thing every painter would say all the time and complain about. It's like, oh, painting's dying, like because it's just such a traditional medium and it's like the only people buying paintings are like super billionaires. And so on one hand, it's like painting was dying in terms of like, or is dying in terms of like, are rich people buying paintings?
Right.
Like not really, um, but like I feel like so many people still paint, and it just like does a disservice to like people who are still making stuff in that
Yeah.
medium. I feel like maybe there's like a correlation there with games too, where it's like I think just because like things are rocky or like stressful in like the economic sphere right now for video games, like and it's being like really hyper focused on like top heavy AAA stuff,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that like games are dying. I feel like at least to me observationally, it feels like more and more people than ever are like making weird games and like experimenting with games as like a medium, and I feel like that's really exciting. So it's like maybe there's not like uh an avenue right now of like people getting funded for like making these things, but I feel like it does seem like there's just so many people making cool,
Yeah.
weird stuff compared to like when I was like younger or something. And there's like, you just have your consoles or like things that are like online, like even like Flash games was like, I feel like it's like equatable. Like, I feel like there's probably more
Yeah.
people making games now than people were making like Flash games. You know what I
But
mean?
but it feels like the industry people, or like very industry brained people, just don't engage with it, so they act like it doesn't exist. When I feel
Yeah.
like the no budget DIY stuff is where the artists go when they're not making money. When they're in between
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's like what zine fests are, or like just putting on local shows or whatever. Where he's like, oh yeah, I'm not in I'm like whatever, an actor not in a show right now is out doing whatever shows, whatever local theaters that we'll never see. Uh,
Yeah.
in the same way that like maybe someone scores themselves like a whatever, their comic gets adapted into a movie, but like then it doesn't, and like in between that, we're not seeing all the indie comic shows they're going to. We're not seeing every band that's touring all over the country. Uh, but all that stuff exists in the same way that all these people making games like exist.
Yeah.
But it's hard to like it's hard to surface because the people who are surfacing it are people who are probably just as small as the people that they are surfacing.
Totally. Um, but
But
yeah, I think I don't know. I guess it just feels like uh, it feels really easy right now to kind of like go doomer brained, and I feel
yes,
like that's something I like am battling internally, anyways. Is like how black pilled am I in general about everything, but I think like I think it's really important to just like actually be a little bit objective of like what what the reality is and
yeah,
like how many like I don't know. I just get really inspired and hopeful about um the indie space because I think like at least from my perspective, like coming into it a little bit later in my life and like maybe I have like the the kind of lucky perspective of like not being jaded about it or like
yeah.
being
But
so
I
involved in
think
it for so long that I'm like, oh, I'm jaded. But I think to me it feels really exciting that I'm seeing a bunch of stuff that's like new all the time, and I think if anything, it like yeah, we should just lean more into each other as like a community or
and
like how do we make more community
yeah,
stuff happen?
and I think also coming in from another art form, not just coming straight from to games from nothing, also gives you a perspective of, oh yeah, sometimes art is just like this.
Exactly.
Sometimes art is sometimes, which is to say, most of the time, art is just hard, and most
Yeah.
people are not going to. It's not going to be their job.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's like with music too. It's like, I mean, literally anything. It's like there's like 5 million people who are like amazing, the most talented musicians of all time, but it's like, are people buying their songs on Bandcamp?
Right.
Probably not. But like, I'm really happy that, people are making stuff and putting it out there, and it's like, yeah, I feel similarly about like indie game space where it's just like there's a lot of really genius people making stuff, and I'm just like happy that I get to experience playing their games,
Yeah.
even if yeah, so
It's right. I realized it's when I learned this year that it didn't happen this year. It happened very recently. But even whatever pivotal indie darlings Pavement just had a gold record this year, or not this year, but like recently because of TikTok or whatever. And like
oh, so
even people that we think are like successful are probably also not as successful as you think they are, and like
yeah, that's like 100,000% true. And or even like yeah, I mean this is a little bit tangential,
yeah,
but like advice I always give to like people when they ask me yeah, just like advice about being an artist or whatever is just like never put your idols or like people that you really are inspired by like on a pedestal, and just like like as artists like more likely than not they're like much more relatable than you think. And like
yes,
I always encourage people to like email or try to like reach out to people that they're inspired by rather than be like intimidated by like interacting with them, and then you can like yeah get some kind of like connection going between people. And it's like I don't know, there's just like yeah, I feel like there's just like a lot of artists or like musicians or people who are just like yeah, I just work at a school and
yeah,
that's like my job, and like I actually don't really talk to that many like game developers or like or other artists or whatever. And so it's like if you send them an email and you're like I'm a fan and like I would love to get your thoughts on this and this, like they're more likely than not they're going to be like wow, that's so cool that someone like else is doing this thing and is interested in talking to me about it. Like I
yeah.
don't really get to talk about it that much.
No,
And
I
yeah.
my entire half of what I do is a lot of cold emailing people who I like.
Yeah, totally.
Like I'm still weirdly like blown away. Like when I got like an email about like my resubscription to like my Koosh resubscription, and then it was like a message to me because I'm like, oh, that guy just knows who I am now, and it's like, oh, this thing that is like in part a large inspiration for me doing everything I do. Koosh is a pivotal part of me making Indiepocalypse in general.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that person just knows who I am. And I've talked to, and it's like, oh yeah, people are like, I think you can usually pick out the vibe of the kind of person who would be like, quote unquote, like, oh no, stick to your level of people, don't talk to me kind of thing. But I think most people are probably not like that, and the people are like that you probably don't want to talk to anyway because they sound insufferable. This, then,
But yeah, I love Pavement.
yes,
I saw them live recently, and I was like very happy.
yes, no,
um,
that is, it is, it was very weird. It is very weird. It is also like fucking everything's circling back around
yeah,
infinitely.
it's weird to see like what songs get picked up on TikTok as
Yeah,
like viral songs, and I'm always like shocked when it's like uh yeah, just like a long-standing band from the 90s or like just a weird. Because I also really love like I guess just like variations of electronic music, and I feel
yeah,
like there's a ton of like 2000s Euro techno that's like been picked up on TikTok, and I'm just like, who's finding these songs and using them? Like I want to know like
yeah,
how these trends happen. It's like really intriguing to me.
and it's like the weird thing, like sure, maybe 95% of the people will like do the choreographed dance to the song and never think about it again. But those
Yeah,
5%, they're like, oh, what is this?
yeah. Yeah, this is like totally tangential,
Yeah.
but one of my favorite bands of all time is Unwound,
Okay.
and like uh I saw them live recently, and I I think maybe one of their songs was like it wasn't like super TikTokified, but it was like in a subtle way. And I think the only reason I saw it is because I listen to them all the time and it was like weird algorithm thing.
Right.
But I think like, but it was just really funny, like going to the show. It was a bunch of like old heads posted up everywhere. And then there was just like a ton of Gen Z people there too. And I was just like really happy actually to
Yeah.
see that. I'm just like, whoa, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a little bit deranged to find music from TikTok, but I'm like, it's still nice to know that like young people are like finding music in whatever way that they can. And I'm like, because Unwound was never that successful
Right.
anyways. Like seeing young people at a show and there's like they're really into it and stuff. I'm just like, whoa, that's like kind of inspiring in its own way. Even if TikTok's evil.
Yes,
I'm just
yes. I mean, it's once again the good and the bad at the same time. Yeah, it is like it's so much stuff. It is like you can just like get into anything. You know, there is so much access to like. Sometimes the algorithm will serve you well, but you never know if it will serve you well. And then it is like plenty of people would like all these weird alt rock post punk bands from the '90s, but you know to some degree, how do they find them? Or like they're just hoping. I'm just hoping it shows up on. I hope this random Pavement B side shows up on TikTok, and
yeah.
then like gets everyone like, when's everyone gonna get in we're all gonna get in a Husker Du next year, or who knows? Like it is untellable. Like what and then all tons of art is like that of the cliche of the recognize respected beyond your years or whatever, or you'll be famous in 20 years. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah.
The curse of being ahead of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's cool, but I guess it just like, I don't know. At the same time, it feels like, at the same time, it feels like, sometimes I just get nervous that like there's too much of like a compression, or
Yes.
maybe this is like me becoming older and like becoming more boomerified in my brain, sadly, or something where I'm just like, I don't know, I'm scared of the future in this sense where I'm like, will everyone just like Spotify is going to be owned by Amazon and like everything just gets owned by Amazon and then everyone is just like listening to the same 10 songs over and
Yes.
over again and like or like yeah, there's a compression of all art that has existed and gets like like overly uh saturated in this way where like yeah, how do you have like longevity where it's
Right.
like the oversaturation happens and then you just like there's like the flash in the pan is so fast that it just like skips over it being meaningful. I guess that's like my fear where I'm
Yeah,
just
because
like
like I mean, the classic way of finding this, besides like having good writing about it that exists,
yeah,
is having a cool friend. And like, how do you get the cool friend? So that's why
yeah, cool.
if you don't have your cool friend that's like, hey, have you seen this? Have you listened to this? Then you're kind of dependent on outside sources, and as those increasingly like dwindle or worse even like exist, but in order for them to continue to exist, they feel like they need to talk about whatever it is will get them the most attention.
Mhm.
Um, then it's like, how do you get off the beaten path, and how do you like and because it feels like there's so much stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, no, plenty of people would be into tons of. I recently in this year, watched Greg Araki's Apocalypse trilogy, and I'm thinking like, damn, dude, the kids would fucking love this stuff. Like, but it's like
Well,
how do you find it? You know?
yeah, I mean, well, I will say, 'cause like I know like a bunch of fashion people
Yeah.
also from living here for so long and interbreeding between like all the different design communities and stuff, but Greg Araki, that trilogy was like in the kind of like cool sphere.
Oh,
I
I'm
think it was
so
like in
glad.
the summer. Like it hit a bunch, so a bunch of young people like are watching it,
That's what I
and
thought. I'm like, this is some real Gen Z shit. Like,
yeah,
for as much it is like true like angsty doomer nonsense in like the best way.
yeah. um, but yeah, I'm hoping that like Tumblr comes back in like a fun way. Like
Right.
I know a lot of gamer people live on Tumblr, but I feel like there's not like the same level of like attention or community, I think, as like when it was the height of Tumblr. But I feel like people are like moving away from uh other social media stuff, so I'm just like because I'm just like envisioning just like entire like mood board of like
Yes.
stuff, and then young people being like, I want to dress like that.
Yeah, because to bring it all the way back to something I mentioned earlier, of all the websites, Tumblr seems like the place where you want to show people that you're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Which is
um
like, man,
I'm
we.
like, what? Sorry, go
No,
on.
I was just saying, that is my internal limitation. Is like, I wish more people just wanted to be cool.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, I think being cool is also like a funny
Yeah,
way to think about things, but it's like the thing about being cool is like, I don't know, there's so many
yeah,
silly things to say about what being cool is, but I do agree with you that like I think like there's like a little bit of like a fun quality of like wanting to show like the things that you're interested in, and like
yes,
I think there's like a authenticity to yourself and what your interests are, and that's like what makes you cool. And something like Tumblr provides a really good outlet for that because you can like manicure and showcase like what you're interested in a way that feels like fun, like the
yeah,
kind of like blog way of like interacting with someone's content is just like inherently a little bit more sincere and a little bit more authentic, and I think
yeah,
that's what makes it feel cool rather than like, I don't know, the
yeah.
like,
My
yeah, the instant gratification of like an Instagram or something is like it's
yes,
almost less cool inherently because you're just like being bombarded with like, I don't know, still images or videos like really quickly, and then yeah.
oh the fact that you can play music over images on Instagram is the most cursed thing that's ever happened. Uh,
It's really cursed. I love it. I love putting songs in.
but I'm like, usually it's like, oh, it's a safety. This is an image. I don't have to worry about it hijacking my headphones. Like, no, no, no. But I think cool is my shorthand for feeling confident about your own personal taste, which
Yes.
itself is a very less cool way of saying that. But
Yeah.
more that like these are things I like more than feeling the need to have a take on a thing that you feel is very publicly visible.
Yeah.
Which is more like I think that like because also Tumblr works in a way that's like harder to you can talk to other people, but I feel like it's harder to like it's less
Mm,
perceived.
yeah. Or yeah, or it also just feels like slower, you know?
Yes.
It's like I feel like if you're like trying to have a conversation on Tumblr, it's like you're gonna wait 3 to 4 business days to get a reply, but
Yes.
then yeah.
And they're kind of like
Uh
tucked away. You have to like click on something to even see them.
yeah.
Um, and but you can also have like fun snipey tags on things.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts about like gamer discourse that exists, or like discourse online about games.
Yeah.
I find it so hard to engage with, like
So
personally.
an important thing that I taught myself like years ago, whenever I would see like video game discourse when I was online more,
Mhm.
I would ask myself before I would engage with it. I asked myself a question, which was, are they talking about like whatever the argument is about, is this about commercial video games or video games as a medium? And most of the time it's the first one. I go, oh, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
When people say like, oh, games, games should or should not have whatever yellow paint guiding the players through. Yeah. I go, oh, this is about commercial products, not about video games as an art form. Like, sure, that's like asking, should Disneyland have like partitions and stuff that guide people through their pathways? Yeah, probably. It's theme parks. Like, people making theme parks should have these little guides.
Totally.
Because
I think that's a clever way of framing it. It's like, it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's no way that like anyone cares about yellow paint.
No.
If like on our level of creating stuff.
Right. I mean, that was a note I was going to send back to you about your game. Is that player feedback? They didn't know where to go. So if you could add more arrows to the aquarium, you're just like,
I would never add arrows anywhere. I feel like, I mean, not to be like everything I do is intentional, because I'm not like that smart, but I think like, I do feel like for that game, or for Daydream, I just wanted it to feel really confusing.
Yes.
That was like my main verb. I was like, confusion. How do I like make people feel confused? And also like a little bit frustrated.
That is,
yeah.
So for the pledge drives, a friend of the show, friend of the Andrew Bianca, who is like the multidisciplinary, also a giant multidisciplinary artist, but went to film school. She had hosted had her host like experimental film sections of like my pledge drive streams, just to really dig people in. And part of her preamble that I think is important that is like, sometimes art is meant to frustrate people and to be confusing. And like sometimes, like, so if you're confused or frustrated, she's like, think about that for a second, because maybe that's the intent.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, if I want to explain it a little bit, is like, I mean, it was supposed to capture like a moment that was very confusing and stressful, frustrating, like is a little bit autobiographical of like a time where I was like really struggling with like what I should and shouldn't be doing, and like if I was like happy or not. And I think just like, I don't know, I think there's like ways of trying, I don't know, I feel like there's like ways of trying to make a game feel like that feels like also you're trying to like make it still be pleasurable for the player to like engage with your thing, so they like feel rewarded playing it. But I'm just like, I was like, that just seems wrong to me. Like for that, like I'm trying really hard. I want people to feel like what I was feeling in that moment, like so they're so it just like feels like as strong of a emotional impact as possible. And like, I don't know, I think like, I don't think you have to do it in a way that it feels logical in like the mechanics or like the way the space is designed or whatever. It's like that confusion can be just all of it. Like could be a little bit confusing, and like you're feeling turned around. Like, I mean, I use like a lot of repetitive visual things where I'm like, okay, if you're like looking in this direction and you're looking in the other direction, it's like it kind of looks the same. So when you get like lost, you're like, wait, where am I? And I think, I don't know, there's just like small things like that where it's just like, it is a little bit intentional, and I just
and like I am attuned to the medium. I am so like I went through it like, I just breezed through it, so to speak. But watching other people play, go, oh right, like this is a language that you have to like get used to, and that you have to like, people are not necessarily like they're looking for immediately the game to tell them what to do. Right. When sometimes the game isn't there to tell you what to do, and we let profit decide what is good design and what is not good design. If you think about action-based video games, tell people like Souls like that, like, oh yeah, use those shoulder buttons to attack, and people are like, no, what? Why would I do that? That's what all the face buttons are for. But they became popular, and then like because those games sold so well, a lot of games just like use shoulder buttons to attack now because that's what the games do. Like we attribute progress, quote unquote, based on like financial success to a lot of times, and also games don't like art. It's all art. Art doesn't progress linearly. You know, it's not like, oh, this game's better now because we made them 30 years after those other games.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just kind of like the thing too. It's like I'd rather someone open my game and like get frustrated and like not finish it
Right.
than like at least for like a game like that. Like maybe there's other games I would make that I would like care more about player feedback, but I feel like if I'm making something like super personal or super like experimental, I'm just like I'm gonna make it the way that like I'm thinking about making it, and the people who get it are gonna get it. And I think that's like I guess that's kind of like yeah, what makes it feel more like quote unquote art.
Yeah.
Because you're just like yeah, it's like you kind of like are requiring someone to have to like push themselves or like at least be in the spirit of like and I don't know, to me it feels playful to be like
Yeah.
in the spirit of just like I'm gonna jump into this thing, and even if I'm like hitting my head against the wall a little bit with it or like don't quite fully understand parts of it, like I'm just gonna keep pushing through, and like whatever feeling I have is like what I'm supposed to be feeling, you know, and
Yeah.
I think
Well,
yeah.
my favorite thing when I get a game and I don't fully I'm not fully locked in on what I exactly need to do. When I have to like figure it out and like parse through it, that's some of the stuff that excites me the most. I'm like, huh, what's going on here? Like oh, you didn't just like plug in your version of like a video game that everybody knows, you know, like.
Yeah.
You're not making your XYZ, like you're making a video game. You know, we have this big keyboard in front of us. It can do everything. We don't have to be beholden to the ideas of what the buttons are supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to make something that uses the entire keyboard.
Right.
I haven't figured out what that is yet. Yeah, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna spend time making something that you already know is gonna be like a little bit hard for people to get into, you might as well just like go all out and do what makes you happy as like the person making it. And then if people struggle with it or something, like maybe that's something you can keep in mind for future things if you really care. But like, I don't know. I just like want to encourage people to just be weird and like try things out, and like sometimes those things fail or like people have a hard time with it, but I think that's what makes it kind of beautiful and interesting, because then you can talk about all the things that like are weird about it rather than just being like, I don't know, like that was fun, like I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's part of the problem about letting industrial game design lead the conversation, is that it's leads towards like commercial products, which are often like, this has got to do good or else I don't make games anymore. But like encouraging smaller scale design is like, oh, sometimes you make something that's bad, you know, as you're like, you know, sometimes you go, huh, that's a shitty painting. Oh well, I don't like that.
But I mean, yeah, I guess that's like the thing about art, right?
Yeah.
Like embracing the subjectivity of things.
Right.
Is like, I mean, I still make paintings sometimes, but like I feel like when I was making more paintings, it's like sometimes there would be paintings I would make and I'm like, I fucking hate this. Like, I hate this so much. But then random people would be like, this is my favorite painting that you've ever made. And I'm like, so I don't know. It's just like, I think also you just have to embrace like the subjectivity of how people are going to engage with the thing you're doing.
Right.
And like,
or how you're going to engage with it. 5 years later, you might be like, huh, this is a good one. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Like,
And but yeah, it's like I don't know, I think it's better. I guess my point is like I think it's better to just like put the stuff out there, make things, even if like it's like a hit or miss, like someone, at least one person in the world is gonna look at the thing that you made and be like, that was cool.
yes.
And like that should be enough for you to like make something and put it out rather
Yeah.
than be like, oh, I'm like such a perfectionist. I need to have like the most perfect thing out there. And I think that's what makes it feel more of like, okay, now I'm like making games as like a art practice because rather than being like, I'm making one game for my that's gonna define my entire like career and who I am or
Right.
something.
The internet has really ballooned like the number of people that need to care about something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to make it feel meaningful. Like, imagine if you were just like nobody you ever heard of, no one's ever heard of, and you like put up a painting in a gallery, and then 100 people are in there looking at it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, "Whoa, what? Hey!" But it's like, oh, only 100 people liked it. Oh, that was nothing. It should have been 10,000. I needed to go viral.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like that's also like the benefit of occasionally getting in person lets you like remind yourself of that perspective. I go, oh, if when I'm at a convention, I need, to sell through my stock, I need to sell something to like 1% of the attendees. And then I will have an absurd, I will have sold through my entire stock, which would be an absurd amount of sales to, like 1 to 2% of convention goers.
Yeah, I think just like in terms of like longevity of anything that you do, it's like what are the ways you can stay motivated? And I think having that perspective just like actually makes you feel motivated because
Right.
like so easy to get bogged down by all the negative things that or like yeah, not see like the things that make what you do valuable, but yeah, I don't know. I think just like yeah, I agree with you. It's like being in person and having like just like fun interactions or things that like feel serendipitous or like random just makes the work that you do feel like interesting and
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
and
I,
yeah.
I was, when I was at the Portland Adventure Game Expo, someone was like, how much for one of everything? And I was
Man,
like, name your price, buddy. I'm fine. Someone bought literally one of every single Indiepocalypse. And like, there are people out there, and would you find them on the internet? It'd be hard to find them in the same way on the internet, because it's kind of like an everything space, uh, versus like these more focused spaces that are harder to get to, especially if you're like not in a city or not somewhere near a city,
right, yeah.
or don't have the resources to fly around to places.
Mhm.
Uh, but Nicole, we've been going for like about 2 hours. Um, and
Talking
to not
forever.
go on forever, which there is the trap of going on forever, which I've catch myself in. But I like to keep these as a nice listenable 2 hour conversation. Um, listenable, I say, is there are people who listen to this, as it turns out. um, I had a guest on Lauren, who was on one of the previous shows. They were like, "Oh, I listen to that show sometimes." I'm like, "Huh." Because they were like, "Oh, I'm not near other game devs, so it's kind of like a way for me to listen to other game devs talk."
It's
Uh,
nice chatting. I feel like yeah, I'm like I mean I've listened to the radio your I guess Indiepocalypse radio
yes.
and it's also yeah, exactly what Lauren is saying is like it's just nice to hear people's perspectives like about games because it is just a very it feels like we're like in an ocean and everyone's like floating around each other
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah, that is a thing that I like. It feels more isolated because they don't like. I mean, unless you have like a local meetup group, you know, generally you aren't meeting up very often. Like you're not playing shows or kind of like or traveling to out to a lot of like games don't have, for instance, a lot of small scale events that are affordable and you make your money back at. They basically have none of those.
Yeah.
So you don't like build up those like convention like it's been weird doing conventions to like I've been seeing a bunch of people at the same conventions. I'm starting to build up those convention relationships of like, oh hey, it's you again.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling to both meet people at them and then continually see them at them. But games don't have many of those.
Yeah.
They like it's kind of like, oh, are you gonna go to GDC? I guess. Are you gonna spend $1 billion?
Yeah.
And a thing I didn't realize that like it's during the week, so it's also like, are you gonna burn fucking 5 days of PTO on this thing? Yeah. Presuming that's so. I would always say only go to GDC if your company's paying you to go there, and I say it now 10,000%. Only go to GDC if your company is paying you to go there.
Yeah.
Or I guess
agree.
Or I guess if you're like a student and you don't have a job or whatever, and you just live in the cush life or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me. I went 2 years in a row as a student, and I don't think I'm gonna go for a while. Probably just like unless I apply for an award at IGF or something.
Right.
I just picture myself spending the money or time doing it.
Right, because you have to like, because you're going there, I guess, to really be like, oh, I'm gonna make connections. I'm gonna get a job at GDC.
Yeah.
Which it feels weird for a lot of more like, especially in the kind of itch sphere where everyone's like a weird generalist. Like people who make cool art aren't necessarily the most hireable.
Yeah.
They're not like senior programmers. Even though they make very interesting stuff, it's not like, oh, well, how are you with shaders? Like, oh, I make weird 2D art.
Yeah.
In RPG Maker. That doesn't necessarily translate to, a AAA studio or even like an indie studio. But anyway, I was winding up to starting to close down this show. So there are two standard Indiepocalypse questions that generally get asked at the end of every show. As a listener, you may be prepared, you may not. So first up, I got to ask you, what's your favorite type of rock?
Okay. This is a hard question because I listen to so much music, but I think my favorite is post-hardcore.
Okay.
I'm a huge Fugazi and Unwound fan, and I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that I would also say. Like The Breeders is like one of my favorite bands of all time.
Okay.
But anyway, post-hardcore,
Yes.
I think like a cool pivotal point in like rock history that's like interesting to me. So that's probably my favorite.
No, it is always a hard question, and my good to give example, because I was going to ask for example. People who are like not music people, they go, "What does post-hardcore mean?" And they go, "Well,
Yeah. Tell you about the history of hardcore first, and then
Yes.
I can tell you about post-hardcore.
right."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, so this means it came after hardcore?" It's like, it's when I recommend people, like I recommend everybody, even if they've never heard them, even if they don't know if they like them, to go see one Godspeed You Black Emperor show, because they are like exceptional shows. But that's like post-rock. What does post-rock mean? Oh, they just play guitars, but for like a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's violins and stuff too sometimes. But
True.
But also, I think video games need more weird esoteric genre naming like that.
I agree.
That's just like inscrutable.
Oh, post FPS.
Yes.
Would be, yeah.
And less no more genres that mention other video games. Kill them. Done with them.
I agree. Yeah.
Goodbye Metroidvania. Eat shit Souls-like. No longer need.
Yeah, let's bring in some new adjectives.
Yeah.
Like, word hippo things. Yeah.
We need It's like doomed adventure. Here we go. Doomed adventure games is my style. That captures the vibe of a lot of Souls games.
Or like one of my favorite like electronic music genres is happy hardcore, which
Right.
I think is just a good name. Like why isn't there that but like for games?
Right. Because it also like opens so much possibilities. Opens the possibility for sad hardcore.
Yes.
Post. Now, of course, post happy hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was it? I made up there was one. I was on a show. I was on episode. Folks, if you want to listen to this, I remember because I was talking to Nikki Flowers about it, which, as I showed out last show, because it's nearby and it just came to my recommendation. I highly recommend people subscribe to Very Little News. It's like $5 a month or so, and you get a little tiny newspaper. I'm a big fan of it. But this is all me just saying a lot of specifics to try to remember the genre I made up on the spot. And there was one band on Bandcamp that had that genre. It was Baroque something. I forget what it was. Or it was like chamber jazz or some bullshit I just made up. And there was one band that had that as their label on there. Chamber jazz feels less made up. It was because it had Baroque in there. But the point is, we need more bullshit. And speaking of bullshit, games that are full of a bunch of bullshit, and by bullshit I mean bullets. Nicole, do you have a favorite Toho character?
Okay. To be honest, I have not played that much, but I really like the little witch character. She's really cute. I've seen her a lot, and I like her. I don't know much about her. I've played these games like a little bit, just to know what they're about.
Yeah.
But I am not like invested in like the
You're
500 characters.
You're thinking of Marisa, the little witch, who I think she steals stuff a lot.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I like that personality.
I most like a recommendation for people who need to like know about Toho. First of all, there's a billion games. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
And like the fan game community of it all. Just like, you can just pick a Toho game. I commissioned a game for Indiepocalypse that was a Toho game. I did not specifically commission a Toho game. But when I commissioned Lily, Villian, she had just ended up making a Toho game.
Amazing.
But just like the idea is someone can be like, oh yeah, just there's very loose rules, just kind of make whatever games you want. And that guy always seems like he's having a good time,
Yeah.
If you've never looked at pictures of Zune, the creative Toho, like 95% of them, he's just got like a giant beer and he's smiling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of person. That's the livelihood you need to try to pursue. Is just like carefree. Yeah. I'm vibing.
Yeah. I'm just hanging out. I'm just having a good time. I'm just like chilling. Like,
oh yeah. I just looked him up and he's got a cool energy for sure.
Yeah, he just seems like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, let's not get into the underlying thing of also Toho is one of the probably like most influential game franchises in the world that very rarely gets recognized in the U.S. in the English-speaking world.
Yeah. That is 100,000% true.
Which is another like weird thing. We don't have time for me to get into that sidebar of that GQ. If you want to understand what's wrong with video games and video game culture, just look at the GQ Top 100 Games.
Yeah.
And remind yourself that was voted on by experts in the field, and they decided that Breath of the Wild was the best game of all time. I'm like, for shame. Like,
of all time.
Of all time. Yeah, 100 best video games ranked by experts.
And yeah, who are the experts? I need to know.
They're like, game developers and critics. Probably all those people on Twitter that you recognize the names of. but like their consensus pick is like Breath of the Wild, and the top three are Breath of the Wild, Last of Us, and Tetris. As far as I like Tetris, I think Tetris rules, but like the other two, let's be serious. Breath of the Wild is fun, but it's also brand new, and like
Yeah, it okay, to be fair, it is a really good game, but I
yeah,
don't know if like I guess like I don't know if it maybe it's like the most smooth game of all time. Maybe that's like what they're
I
kind of
like
like categorizing. Like I
yeah,
think anyone can pick it up and play it and it feels like super super easy to like do it and it feels fun. And
right.
maybe that's like their criteria is like how
That's
smooth.
the I think that's part of what you're talking about. Like video games are entertainment,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
because I think this that was 2023. Was it now? Was the Sight and Sound poll that same year? I'm gonna look this up finally to see
That's
if
like
that
the last thing.
the one with no. Because the last okay yeah. So it feels like it was clearly inspired because the last Sight and Sound poll was in 2022. So in May of 2023. So because one of the I think Sight and Sound publishes towards the end of the year. So basically someone's like, oh, let's do a Sight and Sound poll, and then
Yeah.
you when you put Breath of the Wild up next to Jean Dielman, you recognize, oh, these experts in these mediums have different priorities
Yeah.
of like
Mm.
most video game where a video game guy runs around versus 3 hour long slow cinema
Yeah.
about basically one person.
Mhm.
This is me increasingly trying to convince everyone to friggin' watch Jean Dielman
Yeah.
as I as as I truly. That's one of those things where I think about all the time,
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's pretty solid. So.
if you have not, folks out there, pick up Jean Dielman 23 Quad du Khmer 1080 Brussels with my worst French accent tossed onto it. Um, it is set aside 3 hours or so, and then just like
And then just dive in.
and just dive in, and then maybe go, I hated it, but maybe you'll think about it still.
Yeah.
This is part of this radio show is just slowly convincing people to just try that.
Yeah. That's your like secret agenda.
Yeah, my secret agenda is just get people into like, get them to listen to Azusa Plane, and all the other bands that I like that I don't think they're listening to. Azusa Plane is, of course, like long drone music kind of stuff. You can pick up like a posthumous collection for like it has like I don't know like 120 songs on it. It's like 6 hours long. Highly recommend. Where the sand turns to gold. Anyhow,
Yeah. I
uh,
will definitely listen to it as a sand turns to gold.
I think most places you'll just get like an abridged. Like I think Bandcamp for instance just has the abridged like 20 track one. But there are ways you can get like the absurd 6 hour long thing of just a bunch of stuff. It's very good though. I like it a lot if you're into drone or ambient or just like a lot of guitar feedback and songs named after other songs.
Nice.
Anyway,
I,
they have songs that are one of the song names was like that very long line from that. Now I'm blanking on the other band's name. Those quirky Scottish folks. I think they're Scottish.
Keys of a polar
Balance
and
it.
bipolar vibration.
What was that?
That's a good. Moog 32 keys of polar and bipolar vibration. I
Yes.
think
I was
very good.
thinking of she was in S&M and Bible studies, not everyone's cup of tea. She would admit to me from that Bell and Sebastian song.
Nice. Yeah.
Songs are just like apologies to whoever. George Harrison plays sitar. Death of a Microphone is the one I play often on this because I think it's very good. It's a very good introduction song. Anyhow,
Yeah.
music. We're not
Anyways,
gonna.
great, a great conversation. Music
Yes.
rock.
Yeah, I love music, folks. Just go listen to music. Be like, what's music? I'm gonna fire up some music. Like, if you have a car, just put on music and force your friends to listen to your music. Be like, I'm the one driving. You got to listen to it. If you're in the car, you have to listen to what I want to listen to. And I'm a full album person. I love doing full albums.
Yeah, albums are great. Fire Tools. Do you know Fire Tools?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. I've got Fire Tools I've played on this very show.
I Can't Die is really good. I mean, a bunch of their albums.
I remember I was at PAX and I was shocked and got excited because someone came up to the PAX booth with a Dismiss Yourself sweatshirt. And I just gotten a bunch of like Dismiss Yourself stuff at some point, like a giant discography kind of thing. Anyhow, this is me trying to wrap up the show. That's every time I say anyhow, that's a reminder for me to like, Andrew, aren't you trying to end the show? And I am trying this show. So Nicole, hello. People trying to look for your stuff. Where can people find that stuff they're looking to find?
A itch.io account, which is Space Lions, which is also like all the names on all the social medias is Space Lions.
Yes.
I have my website that I am currently redoing, and I'm starting like a studio. It's called Ultraviolet Softworks, but that's launching next year. I have some a little bit inspired by my friend Devin doing a game a month.
Yes, Devin just favorited this post.
Oh, nice.
No,
yeah, I'm gonna make I want to make it like a serialized manga basically.
Yes,
but it's so it's gonna be one story for the whole year, and that's gonna be my fun personal project that I'm gonna be working on. Then also one last shout out is like me and my friend started a gaming studio too called Games for My Computer, and that was the Growth Spurt team. So we're gonna be doing stuff too.
The Growth Spurt team of increasingly people of like, 3/5 of the Growth Spurt team within Indiepocalypse coming from those other 2/5 at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Or like, do I just not know these people by their usernames? Or no, I've got gonna keep coming for these people. If you're making cool games, adding them slowly to the collection so that I can just bring other people these cool games.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, thank you so much for having me on.
Yes.
It's really nice chatting. Definitely, if you're in New York, we gotta hang out.
I will remember to be like, hey, I am in New York City. Are other people in New York City? Where do I go? And I will, as we cap, I will say, of course, folks, buy Indiepocalypse. Indiepocalypse.com is a good place to buy it. Pizzapranks.itch.io, also a good place to buy it. If you buy issue 64, Nicole here will eventually get money. Which is you're still new. You're not used to the I would say every 9 months getting $5 randomly through PayPal.
Yeah.
Which is what you can look forward to as being an Indiepocalypse contributor.
I'm so looking forward to that. That's gonna be like one chocolate chip cookie.
I know. You're living in the living that fancy New York life where everything's $1 billion, But if I can get a cookie, not a crumble cookie, those things are like $30, but like a good cookie, not a cake disguised as a cookie for people with too much money. Of course, I feel like folks, if you're listening to this, you know where to find Indiepocalypse stuff. You found your way to this radio show. You probably know what it is. Find your way there. Support that. Support developers making cool stuff. So that I can also support developers making cool stuff. And if you like a game, hey, throw them $1 or $2. It doesn't hurt. And a like. Don't throw them a like. Likes will just go into the ether and not do anything. But dollars can be spent on goods and services.
That's true.
Anyway, Nicole, thank you for joining me here today. We're gonna shut down the show. Goodbye, everyone.